So yes, thanks again for everyone making it this evening. We'll start with item 1 is to receive apologies for absence, if anyone has any, please.
So we have apologies for Councillor Fazy, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Strain.
Thank you. Item 2, to note declarations of members' interests, if anyone has any.
I have a non-pecuniary interest because the parish is over the interest.
Thank you. No one else?
No.
Item 3 is to confirm and sign the minutes of the last Events and Culture Committee meeting held on Wednesday the 17th of July. I was sadly absent, but they have been circulated. If anyone has any questions before we just approve those minutes. Okay, do we have a proposer for the minutes? Thank you. Seconder? Yep. All in favour? Who are there? Perfect, thank you. Item 4 is public participation. Again, an opportunity for the public to attend. No one's in attendance, but have we received any emails, queries? Nothing? Okay. Item 5, to review the year to date financial position for the Events and Culture Committee. So again, a spreadsheet of sorts has been circulated. Detailed income and expenditure by budget heading. Final report if anyone has any questions. Okay, if we're all good, we'll move on to item 6. Item 6 is Events and Culture Business Delivery Plan Updates.
Okay, so it's been a lot of while since the last meeting, so there's quite a few larger events to update on this time actually. So the first on my list to update one is Operation Summer 2024. So we've had a really positive Operation Summer this year. We've had over 8,000 visits across 130 events. So that's really positive. That's 3,000 more visits than last year. So numbers are up on that, and a lot of the partners that we've worked with as well. So the Heritage Centre, for example, they've reported an increase in their visitor numbers as well. So it's obviously having not just a positive impact on the community, and it's obviously getting out there through Suzanne's fantastic marketing, but it's also increasing visits to local attractions like that, which is really positive. An evaluation has gone out, so this has just been for Operation Summer. This hasn't included Lyceum Square. Lyceum Square evaluation will take place once that programme finishes. So out of the Operation Summer attendees, 100% that responded to the survey said that their experience was either excellent or good. So that's really good news. They rated physical access to all sites as excellent. Attendees, 100% of attendees rated the access and entertainment provided as good or excellent. 100% of attendees would like to see the programme return in future years, which is really positive. And favourite types of acts were arts and crafts activities and outdoor theatre activities. Another really positive result of the evaluation was that people's perception of crew improved following their attendance at Operation Summer. So we do tend to see that with a lot of events, but I think this one in particular was positive. I've also included some quotes from some of the attendees. These have been taken both from the evaluation that's come through, but also from social media. We found that the daily posts that were going out at sort of 8:30 in the morning, they were really sort of generating those crowds of attendees. and there's a lot of feedback about how helpful that was. There's a lot of families who wake up and sort of plan their day on the day, which was the feedback that we kind of had last year as well, so that's worked doing it that way this year. And yeah, again, lots of comments on the quality of the entertainment on offer for children and families across the summer. So I'll let you have a read through that at your own leisure because there's some really nice comments in there.
Did the weather dampen spirits?
Looking at the figures, it didn't, but we did, so a couple of the Operation Summer days, the first one was mega busy, but it was really bright, clear day, and the weather didn't affect us at all that day. And then the second two, they were a lot quieter than we would have hoped for those two. We still had around 200 to 300 attendees throughout the day, but compared to that first one where we probably had around 800 attendees, it does make a massive impact. And then the last Operation Summer Day in Queen's Park, we actually had to move that to the Heritage Centre. And so, it's really valuable having those positive partnerships with organisations like the Heritage Centre because it does mean that we can do that and we didn't have to cancel the event completely. But I do think consideration of how much we put into one day when it's outdoors over Operation Summer might be needed in future just to try and mitigate any risks caused by the weather. But that's something that we can think about in future planning. And like I said, I don't believe it affected that much. We've also got a bit of an update on the Youth Music Project. So the Youth Music Project was ran from April to July this year, so it finished just before school holidays started. And we worked with arts charity Rickman on this, and they're very experienced in working with that type of audience, and they are arts and music charities, so they have the skills and knowledge when it comes to that kind of thing as well. Overall, it was positive, and we had some of the young people that took part in that gained some really valuable experience. So the young people that participated, they were kind of taken along on a journey where they were involved in the sort of the planning of the event. They decided on the date, the time that would work for them and their peers, and the activities as well. A lot of the feedback and consultation said that they wanted to see multi-generational events that were accessible, that everybody could access, and that is what they delivered, which was really positive. They had loads of different ages participating, from ages 2 up to 90, which was really positive to see. And then in the evening they had a bit more of an open mic kind of scenario, so they had young people performing on the stage. The only sort of negative that I would say about this event is we didn't get as much engagement as we perhaps would have liked to have got because it was very difficult to engage the music course at the college. And so when we first announced this event, we'd engaged with them during consultations to kind of find out what is it that you want to see, what opportunities do your young people need to help them progress in their music careers. And we kind of followed that, what they'd indicated with the ideas then in the format of the project. But unfortunately they did drop off when it actually got to the point of delivery. However, the performing arts course did engage, and also the lots of Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 students. So overall, the event itself had 250 event attendees, which isn't bad numbers at all, and participating in the actual project itself, we had 240 Key Stage 1 and 2 students, so that's primary school age students. We had 32 students engaged from college, so I'm going into a little bit more detail in this report about what those young people then went on to kind of do as part of the project. So some really positive outcomes, but what I would suggest is that kind of working with young people in this way, it kind of puts a lot of pressure that the end result needs them to be committed to attending that final event day. And I think that was a bit of a problem towards the end, is that, they do just drop off, they get pulled in different directions, I guess. And so I would suggest that actually that youth engagement in music is probably better as part of a larger event such as Picnic in the Park, and it's maybe like a bit of an offshoot or something like that, rather than having a separate event. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it, what happens if
I'll just ask a question. You say it dropped out, the individual young people dropped out, or the course organisation dropped out?
So both really. Like I said, the music course from the college and actually the music teachers from a couple of the schools were really engaged during the build-up to the project, and then when it actually came to delivery, they just stopped engaging. And I know that teachers and lecturers are really stretched, and perhaps it's just that, something is conflicting with what we should do. But then also some of the young people did drop off towards the end, nerves or things like that.
Is it worth maybe a follow-up, just an honest review, to discuss with the course tutors or colleges to see what they feel were the reasons behind it, to see whether something we can come up with?
Absolutely, I think so. We have tried to reach out to some of them already. Some of them have responded, the ones that have been engaged, but the ones that weren't so much haven't as of yet. But I think there's definitely opportunity to follow that up in a different way, and perhaps it just needs to be.
Yeah, we don't want to tell them off them.
No,
we just want to learn.
Yeah, it's learning the barriers so that we can address them in the future. So, yeah.
So which of the schools sent you teachers that eventually dropped out?
Yeah, so it was mainly the music course at the college which dropped out, which is a shame because they were super engaged. But that's, I guess that's the way it is when you're working with schools sometimes, there's conflicts and priorities.
So for the future, how can we mitigate that? What can we do to prevent that happening? Is there something else we can do or somewhere else?
Well, as mentioned, perhaps people were intimidated, maybe as a standalone event. Perhaps we can try again, but as suggested, as a part of something else, perhaps.
So that is an inclusive something, not just a standalone.
Yeah, I think that might be a better approach. Perhaps young people will feel like it's part of it, and maybe Jesus as well, feel like it's part of a bigger thing, and therefore there's less pressure on them. But like Stuart said, I would be interested to learn more about the barriers to engaging in the project as well. So yeah, but still positive numbers, which I think for the first time that we've run an event like that is still really positive, and we do know that youth audiences traditionally, other than that primary school age group, are difficult to engage. So yeah, any other questions on that one? Okay, so point number 3, I just wanted to update you on Crazy Races. So on the 14th of July, we held a Stoke Box Derby event, which took place on Brooklands and Broad Street. We partnered with Stoke Box Derby event organisers Crazy Races, and the event was really positive. It had over 15,000 visitors throughout the day. Money was raised for local charities, and we even had a visit from BBC's Blue Pizza, so a really positive outcome. I've included some of the stats from the evaluation. I think that this is possibly the most positive evaluation that we've ever seen from an event. So that's quite telling. We've had over 100 evaluation responses. So that's quite telling, and that was, literally in the first few days. And that's probably just due to the sheer number of people that attended. So as you can see, really positive feedback. It was a new space that we tried using as well, which is really positive. People liked that space, and town centre businesses said that it did. People did move from that space into the town centre to use facilities there as well, so that's positive. 96.8% of visitors were satisfied with the overall experience of the event, with 81 saying their experience was good or excellent, so really positive. I think the only negatives that we had were that it was too busy. So unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. Perhaps looking at slightly different layouts in future years to kind of mitigate some of that. There was even, in some instances, we had local residents that in the run-up were really concerned. Understandably, it's something new, and they were worried about the parking situation, worried it was going to impact them negatively. In the days following, we had them getting in touch saying, look, really great event, sorry that we doubted you, we actually really enjoyed it, and having it happen on our doorstep was actually brilliant. So I'll let you read through some of those comments in your own time. But yes, really positive feedback there.
Did we arrange the free bus, right?
Yes,
Was that used well?
It was, yeah. I think because we've never done it before, we didn't know just how popular it would be. But yeah, the Alex allowed us to use their big car park opposite the Alex, and had the buses which was full all day. We also encouraged people to park in the town centre. Unfortunately, the multi-storey wasn't open at that point, but there's plenty of other car parks available then. So yeah, they were really well used, which is really positive.
I was just going to ask, did we have any negative police involvement? Because
In trouble.
yeah, at all, because that was at the top of my mind when we were discussing the crazy and the safety and everything. But
No,
brilliant.
we didn't have any major security or antisocial behaviour issues on the day. There were a couple of things in the run-up while infrastructure was being delivered to site, but I think that's because at that point you've not got as many people about, so that can sometimes happen, but nothing major really on that front. So yeah, and the fact that we did have a run-up, obviously we can mitigate against.
Thank you for your job, well done.
Yeah, I attended, and it was just fantastic to see. Well, 15,000 people. That number is fantastic, I think, and it's just so positive to see the town come out when something happens. It brings people together, and I think, yeah, it was. I agree. It was a little difficult to see the track
Oh, I
because it was so popular.
I got to run down.
Yeah.
But it was great. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, really positive. I think there's a couple of learnings in terms of how the site is laid out, and also I think around accessibility, because it was so busy, perhaps creation of some quieter areas. I know that's really difficult to do in a really busy event setting like that, but I think that would be an ideal situation where there's perhaps an area that's carried up a little bit quieter for those that need it. But yeah, other than that, really positive, and like I said, really good attendee numbers from both crew and the areas as well. So really good to see. So yeah, I'll let you have a look through the comments that we received on that in leisure. Next, we've got an update on Operation Autumn. So the programmes are printed and with us, and they're about to go out in the next few days for the primary schools and crew. We've got 35 term. This is a mixture of our events and also events that have been contributed to the programme by other organisations, which is really positive to see because it means that we're developing a town-wide action as well, and everyone's getting involved and everyone's working together in terms of the marketing and communications as well. So, you know, together it does just make that a little bit stronger, really, I guess, and it means that there's even more going on for local residents. So, yeah, like I said, that'll be going out to housing shortly. Christmas light switch on again. Planning's well underway for that now. We've got confirmation that we have got 3 members of the Panto cast there for the switch on moment. So we've got Jenny Ryan, Malcolm Ward and Steve Johnson. We've got all kinds of activities planned for the stage. So we've got an array of acts for brass bands, choirs, solo singers, local drama groups as well. We've had so much interest that we're going to use the Lyceum Square stage as well and have some of the smaller acts programmed on there. So that'll be more like the school groups, the church groups. We've also got the Lyceum Lights and the really little ones that we perform on there, so I think that'll be really positive. Christmas market planning is well underway, so we're working with an organisation called JDL Mini Markets, who some of you might have seen about in other towns, and they also do the mini market in the market hall, which takes place also on Makers Market Sunday. They've got 45 stalls booked for the market, and then which is 20 more than last year, so that's 20 more than we could do on our own. You know, it takes a lot of admin and a lot of organising and getting the market traders in, and a lot of collecting documents and all the rest of it. So yeah, they've got 20 more than last year, so that's really positive. And then we've also advertised opportunities for community stores, and we're hoping to get around 10 community stores, so should be about 55 stores in total, so that'll really fill out the town centre. The community stores will be based on Lyceum Square as well, and then the market stores will be Market Street, Victoria Street, and then a couple on Market Square. Obviously, we have to be mindful of regular traders, and we'll also have food front there as well. So lots going on. And then we are also in the process of planning the lantern parade as well. So Creative Crew are going to be making lanterns as part of the Operation Autumn programme. Those lanterns will then be collected and given out at the parade. We'll be inviting people throughout Operation Autumn to come to the switch on event. And then we're also working with one of the artists that we worked with last year, who was a really skilled lantern maker. She'll be making some of the more complex lanterns again with members of the community. So last year we had about 60 people participating in the lantern parade, so who knows this year we could do even a few more. So yeah, it looks really effective.
So 30th of November. Irish. Great.
Yeah, anyone wants to volunteer, then please let me know. About that one, we are struggling with volunteers. There's been call outs that have gone out, but yeah, we don't have a lot of organisations experiencing it as well, but we just don't have a lot of volunteers available for it.
It helps. When Diane volunteered last week for London, it was really enjoyable. Much more enjoyable being part of it than just being a passive observer. So I'm just encouraging you to do that.
Any questions on so I've got a bit of an update on the arts trail. Some of you did attend the briefing meeting with the region, and I have sent that briefing document around to see. But the positive news is that the first installation is due to begin, it actually begins tomorrow, but the painting will start on the 9th when I wrote this paper, we hadn't had the final design at that point because it was still being put together by the artists and the young people involved. But it's been a really positive process getting to this stage. There's been around 80 young people that have engaged in the project and contributed pieces of artwork that have been then designed into the mural. So that's been a massive opportunity for them to experience when they start to work with an artist. But also there's been opportunity during that process to talk about the town, their experience of the town, and also their aspirations for the town. And the words that are on the mural, they've been generated through that process, and I think it's really telling of what they think of their town. They're all positive words and phrases, and also what they want to see in their town as well. For those that don't know, this is going on the former Chronicle building, so that will be right next door to the youth zone. So the young people that have contributed to this mural will be able to see everything to the youth zone. And it will also be at the start of the Sunday way, so as they're walking into town, I'll be able to see it as well. It'll be a really nice bright sort of start to that walk into town as well. We've had lots of different groups engage in the process from so there's kind of like an initial consultation phase that got us to the point of trying to find artists to take on this part of the project. And then there was a consultation phase that led to the actual designing of it. So as you can see, there's been quite a lot of community involvement. The second commission, which I have shown you before, there's no developments on that at the moment, but this one is around focusing on hidden creativity and creating confidence in female creatives. So throughout the consultation, one thing that's been identified is that there's a lot of women and girls living in Crewe that are involved in creative practices, but they aren't confident enough to call themselves artists or even makers or even engage in that kind of activity outside of the four walls of their home. So it's creating that opportunity for them to do that, and it's a really it's a process that will allow a lot of participation. So lots of people will be able to engage in that. They can come in and perhaps get involved and do it in the comfort of their own home, or so it's quite accessible. We can get packs out to them through community hubs, or we can invite them to workshops with the artists if they would rather do that as well. So that's a really exciting strand to the project as well. And then the third and possibly fourth commission, depending on what comes back, is going to be, well, it is an open call around the theme making free, and that is looking for seeking an artist to work with who will come forward with a design around that theme. It could be a sculpture, it could be wall art, it could be some other type of wall covering, and that's been also used this Mersey Way shopping centre, one is an example that was created with plastic bottle lids. It could be some kind of painted sculpture. You don't know what it's going to be at this stage, but the options are kind of endless. It just depends which artists you get coming forward, and then there'll be an opportunity to go through those options that come forward and pick the one that we all feel is the most suitable for Crewe, and that'll go through a couple of advisory processes, one of them being with members, a briefing with members, and there'll also be an advisory group which we've agreed should be young people again, but an older age group of young people. So we'll be looking at engaging the degree students at the college in that process. They've been identified as, although it's a great course, they're working slightly lower than national level, so I think that kind of opportunity would actually be really beneficial to them. So that's where we're up to with that one, and obviously that's all due to be delivered by the end of March, and we're looking to launch the trail on the first weekend of February half term. So we'll have those missions that I've just talked about, and then we'll also be doing open calls for local artists to do pop-up exhibitions or installations, open studios, and there'll also be lots of fringe activity which will involve workshops with the artists, talks, and that kind of thing. So lots planned for that. There'll also be 2 trail maps, one that will be produced for the actual launch of the project, and then another that will be for future use after that launch period comes around. Yeah, lots happening for that. And then that brings me on to the extension of the trail. So as I think you all know, full council have approved an allocation of £20,000 of reserves to commissioning a mural on the side of the town council building. So this will just add a little bit more to that project. We are learning that you don't get a lot of art for your money. It's artwork is expensive, and so it should be. There's a lot that goes into it. And it's only right that those creatives get paid fairly. But this will really add to the trail, and this mural will be something that just screams through, basically. So there'll be an open call document that's produced for that invites people to submit applications for that mural, and then once that open call comes to a close, if it doesn't align with one of these meetings, then I'd like to call a briefing meeting so that members have the opportunity to influence what that is and make a decision on what goes on the side of the building. So really exciting that has been approved. And then my final point, sorry, this one my final point on this update is the procurement of strategic cultural events. So we had, you might remember that we had budget for a one-off strategic cultural event. So I've been working on this throughout the year, thinking about what this might be, looking at past consultation, past events, and kind of feedback and evaluation comments that we've had on what people would like to see for the town. And the tender has gone out for a festival style event to celebrate Crew Day, and this will take place on the 4th, 5th and 6th of July 2025. So we're seeking to work with a cultural organisation that is experienced in delivering this type of thing, experienced working with communities and delivering unique events that are kind of specific to a location. And the idea is that organisation will also work with us to identify and secure external funding that allows this event to become an annual event for the town, and eventually allows it to be financially stable on its own without us, and kind of community led, and also allows its growth as a unique crew event. So that's the tender that's out at the moment, and again, once we've had all of the submissions back to that, then members will be involved in the process of selecting the successful organisation. So yeah, has anyone got any questions?
When was the tender sent or opened?
It went out about, it's not been opened yet, it closes on the 25th of October, and it's been out for, it'll be out for 6 weeks, so we're giving it plenty of time to get lots of interest.
Just, there was the crazy races. Will this be kind of instead of that? Are taking our efforts to this rather than that?
So I'll talk about this in the budget setting paper, but what I've suggested is that this is a July event to celebrate Crew Day, because it just feels like a natural fit, and it feels like a natural opportunity to celebrate what crazy races is brilliant, but I think that it's the type of thing that it might get to a point where we don't want to do that, and more people might lose interest in it, which they have said does happen in some areas under the kind of second or third year. So I have proposed in the budget setting process that we do look at bringing crazy races back, but in May, and doing this as an event in July. So that also then extends that period of summer events. So we've got something fairly substantial kind of from May through to July, and we're into Operation Summer over August. So yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more. Hopefully that answers.
Crewe is the railway town. Actually, I came to Crewe, not that I knew Crewe, I lived in London, but simply because each time I go somewhere, all change at Crewe. And then the children said, okay, instead of going further, let's see what's happening in that place. We all change at Crewe, and that's how we eventually came to Crewe. When there is a development of this, will there be a bit of an emphasis on railway?
Yeah, and I mean, it's the tender that's gone out is kind of encouraging the successful contractor to research Crewe, find out about Crewe's heritage, and find out about what Crewe is today as well, because that means celebrating as well, and reflect that in the concept of an event. So I'm sure that railway being a massive part of Crewe's heritage will come up, but I'm hoping that there'll be, you know, other stories as well that to that, yeah.
That sounds fantastic. I hope we get some good ideas. Okay, any questions before we move on? Thank you so much for that in-depth report. Fantastic. Item 7 is a heritage.
On behalf of the Heritage Manager, I'll cover this off. The update's been circulated. It's just for noting, so the notice needs to be made. It gives you an update on the areas that are identified associated with engagement, school workshops, blue plaques, constant, provision of how we're going to fund the Heritage Centre, Valley Brook interpretation, which always part of the project going forwards, and conservation area appraisal management scheme, which is going on as well. There has been events at the Heritage Centre and the Heritage Open Days with great value and breadth, and members here supported that. And it also sees the completion of the work of the Crewe Heritage Group, which is a group set by this council some time ago, which is taking forward the aim of developing this and great the spread of heritage in the town and its engagement. It's been agreed with the members of that and its chair. That group has worked its magic and done its job. So it's going to be wound up, and we'll see that the Heritage Trust is building its spread of interest broadly just the Heritage Centre.
It's the value of interpretation, because of the uncertainty over the review. Are we going to be starting this, or should we wait a little bit?
The interpretation aspect is the board's will be along the book, or whatever aspect of the book. So we are part of the match funding agreement, so the element there. To withdraw what is not a small amount of money, but proportion to the scheme a small amount of money, and then jeopardise the funding that's been drawn down alongside it might be a bit self-defeating, but I think we have to ensure it's relevant to the actual value of green areas rather than that it's now promoted along a road which is a bit near the site.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, queries? No? Okay, thank you. Item 9, Lyceum Square Programme updates.
I think we'll have to make
Oh, sorry. the Heritage Centre bit. Sorry.
I'm just trying to make my part as long and impressive as this again is just for noting, so I won't take a huge amount. We have an agreement to support Crewe Heritage Centre in their work to develop and build on all the they've done over many years to create a larger offer and a broader offer at the Heritage Centre. In doing that, the Heritage Manager has supported the trust as with the governance of the site, the development and broadening the skill set of the trustees, providing new trustees there. The collection management visitor offer, which is the different sort of attractions you put in there, events and activities put on there. And equally, through UK SPF funding, we were awarded, we managed to do a feasibility for the capital project development of the site, building on everything that's there. Again, just for noting, that's work associated with the Heritage Centre. We continue to work very positively with them, and the outcomes are looking very strong again this year, with growth in footfall and income associated with the last bit of time. Very positive. The close season with a lot of work associated with the background aspects, preparation for the museum, that sort of thing.
Thank you. Next is item 9, the Lyceum Square programme update.
So, as you all know, it was approved that the town council will take on responsibility for the programming of Lyceum Square over the summer, autumn season. So that's taking place between August and will finish on the 2nd of November when the autumn half term comes to a close. We've been working with an external contractor on this project, and that is because what we are doing on Lyceum Square is in addition to the work plan that was set for the year, and so there wasn't capacity in-house to take that on. And they have been organising and delivering events over the past few months, and will continue to do that, like I said, until the 2nd of November. So throughout August, this was kind of used as a bit of a consultation phase, but also kind of a getting to know the site sort of phase of the project, because we don't know the site, and the external contractor don't know the site. Not they do now, but they didn't at the time know the site either. So there was 4 events that were delivered during August. This involved a science day, a service skills day, a dinosaur day, and a nature day. They were all very popular with members of the public, and we had lots of attendees at all of those events. But the site has presented its challenges, and so has working with an external operator. Although we did it in that way to kind of reduce the time involved, and also it still takes a lot of management because it's a site that we don't know. There's lots going on there, and as we've identified previously, it is a problematic site. There was then a public day at the end of September, and we also had a blue meet and greet last weekend. Both of them were really well received. However, unfortunately, the space hasn't really been used how it was intended to over the last few months, and hopefully throughout October as well, which is a shame. Lyceum Square, the intention of it has always been for it to be a space that is programmed by the community and used by the community and accessible to the community. We set up a support scheme, which is a financial support scheme, but also a logistical events management support scheme to try and pull in community events to encourage them to use the space. However, we've had very little interest in that, so we were hoping that the scheme would see between 10 and 20 community activities supported in the space, and we've probably got so describing this, but actually we have had another one since about six applications that have actually come to anything. I think there's been quite a few barriers, but some of the ones that I've noted are that a lot of community groups, although they are knowledgeable in performance and what they do specifically as a group, they're not knowledgeable in events management. They don't know what's involved in setting up an event safely in a public space. So that is a big one. A lot of regular groups as well, they have regular meeting spaces that they use. It might be a church hall somewhere or a community centre, and they're usually, there's very little cost associated with hiring those types of spaces. Whereas to move an event outside, you don't know how many people you're going to pull in them because you can't limit your capacity. That means that you need a medic on site, it means that you potentially need a road closure on site, depending on how many you're expecting. Roughly, you need security on site because it's a public setting and you've been exposed to antisocial behaviour and things like that you need to consider. The costs to move something outside it increases the cost of what they're doing considerably. Whereas if they can go to a community hall somewhere, they've got a stage there already, they've probably got some mics and some speakers and things that they can use. All of the infrastructure in terms of chairs is normally there. So I do think a lot of them probably have looked at doing it and gone, actually it costs too much to do it. A lot of groups also don't have access to the volunteers needed to steward these kinds of events. Managing an event outdoors compared to managing an event indoors is very different, and it's also the infrastructure involved, things like barriers, although they can borrow barriers and gazebos and things from us, so there's other things that they need, and we only have a limited supply of those things. I also think as well that there is a bit of a trust issue there in terms of, for the past 12 months before we started programming the space, people didn't know who to go to book the space, who they needed to speak to get that information, the messaging around it was unclear, and that has meant that, although we tried to put out clear messaging, I think people have struggled to engage with it really because they've kind of been put off by their past sort of experiences. And also there were a couple of events earlier on that took place in the space before we were programming them, I'm talking about last year, that were actually shut down by neighbouring organisations and things like that, so that there is that as well that I think is sort of broken the trust there, and I think that is something that can only be built up over a number of years of consistent approach to the space. Although we did have more than 6 organisations say that they were interested in using the space after they filled out their application form and everything responded to, they then kind of dropped off, and I think again that's probably to do with the barriers that I've mentioned. And I also think as well using an external contractor doesn't always do us any favours when working with community groups. We, as the town council, we've got a really good relationship with so many of the community groups in town. We see them on a regular basis. They know us, we know them. They know that we stick to our words, and we say that we're going to do something, we do it. Whereas when you're working with an external operator who they don't really know, they've not worked with before, it's going to take time to build that trust, and I don't think that this short project has allowed enough time for that to happen. So yeah, that's kind of the barriers that I've identified. Neighbouring organisations have been really positive about the programme and really supportive and have engaged with us, and have been clear about what does and doesn't work for them, and they've been very accommodating actually. There's not really been any issues there. However, there are certain dates if, one of the neighbouring venues has got a big event on and they know that there's going to be a lot of people there. And, one of their egress points for if there's an emergency is going to be Lyceum Square, so that does limit what you can put in that space during those times. So that has had to be a consideration as well and has restricted some of the days in which we can use the space. Also, the short lead time we've had into this project has impacted what we've been able to bring in externally. So normally when we're looking at entertainment for events, we can be looking at 6 months to a year in advance. If it's something of quality that we know that we really want, that is what we're having to do. Because you've got to remember these acts are touring around the country a lot of the time. So that has affected what has been available. And as I've said before, having working with an external operator, although it has relieved some of the time commitment from us, they have still required a lot of management because it's a different new space for them as well, and a new area for them. So that's just an update on that. Like I said, the attendee numbers have been good, the engagement with the space from attendees has been positive, but from community groups, as it's intended to be used, less so. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. We've tried to support that happening, but it just hasn't materialised, unfortunately. So in the full council meeting that took place on the 24th of September, a lot of issues upon working in the space was shared at that point, and members directed that the Lyceum Square budget line is amended to allow for a broader delivery of events and culture in the town centre, so to increase that offering. This would mitigate against some of the challenges that we faced this summer and autumn in the space, and it would still allow for some activation of Lyceum Square as part of that programme. So based on this, I provided an options appraisal. Option A is to continue with the current arrangement or similar, contracting an external events management company to program Lyceum Square on a seasonal basis. Benefits of this would be that there would be potential to deliver more events in Lyceum Square throughout the year. There's potential to use the screen more often and value the community in terms of access to activities. But I think in terms of community programming, it's not always the most appropriate space. Risks to this are obviously the cost, the budget allocated to Lyceum Square to cover the 3 months of delivery, plus the consultation and evaluation of this project is significantly more budget is required than if we were programming this space in-house. Supervision and oversight of an external person or organisation delivering does still increase officers' workload. The quality of planning and delivery may be different due to the different ways of working in comparison to our usual processes. So, external organisation doesn't always know kind of our direction as well as we do. And there's also obviously conflicting priorities working with an external operator. We're not there only, we're not there in the project, we're kind of coming in to just deliver the project and then go on to the next thing with that. It's much harder to build that community capacity, as is reflected, because an external operator, they're not always here, they're not always visible on the ground in Crewe, and that does mean that relationships are hard to build and slow to build. There's lack of visibility of ourselves, I would say, on those days because it's an external operator, so although we are funding it and making it happen, we're not actually able to be there on the day. time involved, lack of engagement from the community, as the use of Lyceum Square hasn't been, the need for use of Lyceum Square hasn't been demonstrated so far. And the operational challenges such as the active highway and neighbouring venues is still a concern, and obviously that lack of third sector engagement in the space. Option Option B would be to contract an external events management company to programme town centre venues. That would include Lyceum Square, Market Square and Municipal Square as well. Having those extra spaces would mitigate against some of those risks identified in option A that are specifically around Lyceum Square, with it being a space that's got a lot of neighbouring venues. It was that there was a weekend that we felt there needed to be something on in the town centre, and Lyceum Square wasn't available because the neighbouring venues had big shows and events on. We could look at another space. The benefits of doing that would remain very similar to option A. And then in terms of how the operational challenges would be reduced as the programme is not restricted by the availability of capacity directed by one space, as I just said. The risks still remain very much the same. The cost again would be much higher. Than kind of using internal resources to programme those spaces. Supervision and oversight of an external person will still be required, and delivery is significantly increases officers' workloads. The quality of planning and delivery may be different due to the different ways of working again, and the lack of oversight of the sort of big picture again could lead to sort of lack of cohesion in the programme. So it can be quite clear sometimes when we've got an event that we've programmed versus something that somebody else has programmed, if that makes sense. I won't go through all of that again because they're sustained as above. And then option C is to employ a resource such as a town centre events officer to programme Lyceum Square and Screen, Market Square, Municipal Square and other town centre locations, potentially the Royal Arcade site, depending on what happens with that. The benefits of this would be potential to deliver more events on Lyceum Square and other venues, potential to use the screen on Lyceum Square more often, greater value for the community in terms of access to activities. Operational challenges would be reduced. The programme is not restricted by the availability or capacity of one space. The cost of programming town centre venues would be much more resource effective than options A and B if it was in-house. Although supervision and oversight would increase officers' workload initially, over time, as understanding grew, because it would be more consistent approach and consistent programming, that would reduce and it would increase capacity of the events function overall. Quality of the planning and delivery would be more aligned with our usual outputs, as we have more control over it. Oversight and understanding of the bigger picture, such as the event strategy, cultural strategy for crew, the corporate strategy, would mean more cohesive town centre programme than we've seen this year on Lyceum Square. When we're working with those documents in-house, we're working with them every day, we know them inside out, whereas, you know, it's very difficult for an external operator to learn all of that. It would be easy to go community capacity and volunteer support as well, and as indicated previously as well, volunteer support in the town is pretty low at the moment. It's really difficult to get that, and I do think that is something that needs building, and I think that's happened with a function like this. Greater visibility of Freetown Council on event days, because it would be us delivering it and not somebody else. The barriers to community participation and the use of Lyceum Square could be addressed. You know, we could try to find out what those barriers were and see if there's a way that we could overcome them. And an additional resource for other events would also be there during busy times of year. So this would allow for greater future planning. It would allow for, you know, a greater sight of the sort of onward planning. So rather than looking at the programme for the next year, we'd be able to perhaps look at the programme for the next 2 or 3 years, which would lead to a more cohesive programme over time and a better way of working, a more efficient way of working. And then provision of events would be in more visible locations as well, rather than just focusing on one space. A lot of the cost again remain the same. It would require it would be a significantly lower budget than associated with options A and B, but there would still be budget involved in doing that, and supervision and oversight would still be required. And again, the lack of engagement from the community has been demonstrated with the demand for use of Lyceum Square this year. So those are the options to consider.
So just recently, the Arts Council has given somebody 200 grand plus to share development funding. I'm just wondering how this is a hub in the town centre. Is there any synchrony between that and the Lyceum Square?
Potentially, however, I do believe that what they're trying to do is more arts and culture focused than events focused. So I think it's more around you know, creative practices in terms of like visual arts rather than you know, performance practices. That's my understanding at the moment. It may develop.
So, an assessment of the last few months has triggered or motivated this type of discussion. The council feels that the current arrangement is not the most effective.
No, it's absolutely. As you know, reflected in the report, you know, it's I think there's better ways of programming that space. I think there's better ways to use resources, and I think that actually, you know, if we're able to put that budget into Lyceum Square, there's more effective ways of programming the town centre. There's more. Lyceum Square is a great space, but it's not always the right space. You know, it can't be the only space that we focus on. And if we want to see more town centre stuff, you know, only using Lyceum Square does restrict us a lot.
In option C, do we have any cost of what an officer would cost again?
So this paper is asking for permission to kind of explore that. So we don't know exactly at this point what it would be significantly.
I was going to add to that. Option C, obviously, I think it makes a lot of sense to bring it in-house. If it's an in-house, it's a person there whose responsibility is to do these town centre things, would they then be available to assist with other things, with other officers? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you're part of the team, aren't you?
Yeah, so I think it would be more, so it's another thing which I've not really talked about in this paper, is that, you know, the target thing that could support with is helping to pull together, you know, Operation Summer or Operation Autumn programs, which, you know, is quite resource heavy, requires a lot of admin from myself, from Suzanne, from other officers, you know, to pull that together. Support for things like that, but also on event delivery days, you know, the rate in which our events are growing and the size that some of them are, we're having to bring in, you know, external support to help with marshalling, stewarding and overseeing the operations of events, because I can't be in every part of an event site. And again, if we were to do that in-house, the cost of that would be significantly less. So there's things like that as well that they could support with.
Yeah, our ambition is greater than our ability.
Yeah,
In a way.
absolutely.
The question of how much will it obviously cost, cost somewhere in the region of £30,000 plus on cost per employee. Yes, that would be that. We're looking at just the summer regime that we did, we budgeted £50,000. That's the cost of a private contractor must have a profit margin, that's their right, and the way it works. Equally, there are other events elsewhere, as Rosie pointed out, they're displacing that capacity at much quicker. So the available impact of that is a lot less. If we consider that Rosie on her own, this year so far, Operation Summer 130 activities, Operation Autumn 35 activities, Operation Spring, I can't remember, would be 20 to 30 activities. There was crazy races, picnic in the park, a youth music event, there's doing the Christmas light switch on, Tree of Light, Civic Awards, and I'm sure I've forgotten them, I apologise a little, I'm pretty good at that. I think that's how much one person has later coordinated plus delivered directly as well. And it's disproportionately higher than you can expect contractors because their job is to do exactly what's in the contract. It's not having got contractors at all. It's just a different operating model, exactly right. This council took a decision early on in the summer that to recognise the frustration of using nothing was happening on Licensing Square is not a project this council delivered, but equally it's an asset for the town, and it is an asset. And so it was right to explore what could be achieved in that space. And what we found over the summer is exactly what we felt at the start was likely the case. That it's an event space on an active highway, restricting it smallly to a small use most of the time, unless you close the highway. Closing the highway is expensive, time and money. Equally, use of that space by community is not huge demand for that, unfortunately. So we've been eroded the way, as Rosie pointed out, but equally it's quite a threatening space for volunteers to become responsible for in the public realm, which is one part. There's a lot of technology on there as well, which can be a bit frightening. There have been snagging issues with the development itself. It's still not been handed over by the contractor to Cheshire East because there's still issues with the legal aspects we've got to deal with. So we found it's not a great space, and it's not a highly visible space. There are other spaces. It's a great space for certain events, not all events. You can't have a tail wagging the dog. And as has been mentioned, the ambition of the council is to have more and more events and the cultural hub that's got to come is a great asset to come to town. It will be synergies and opportunities. Creating a cultural critical mass, which is great. But if you want to do more events, I am absolutely fixed on the idea that what we're doing now is more than should be expected. It's hard to sustain, by the way, because it's on a huge amount of work. And there is an opportunity to activate the town centre more, but trying not to be tied to just one space. And the council took that view in November and September, and that's what it needs to be directed to look at. Do you want to put forward a proposal that the resource is put into the budget, which comes to the next item, and that it is in-house or out-house or it's not done at all? That's realistically a thing. cold and clear question you're being asked. I think it's fair to say I'm very clear on what I perceive as the most efficient way of doing it, cost efficient, time efficient. I cannot promise you, I do not want it to whether it's fair or right or sustainable, that you'll get double the output events from what you get from road. That's not fair. But it will provide more activation in the town centre and support activation that's already happening in the broader town centre. So if you are minded, as directed by council, to go down that route, I recommend you see direct employment, and it will come in, as has been shown on the budget line. Consider this in sequence for all the right reasons. We don't want to have meeting after meeting after meeting. But it will come in under £50,000, which is just a seasonal bit which will be contracted, and that will be now a budget to help activate that space. But you still need a little bit of budget to make things.
Sorry, I asked that question not because I'm mean or I don't want to spend money on getting an officer, because I remember the last General Council on the 24th of September. Before that, we agreed on the £20,000 for the act, and there were loads and loads of questions from councillors about how much money that's going to spend. So I want us to be able to finalize this and have a positive something to say. This was why at the committee this was muted and it was all agreed on.
I don't thought you'd been mean. I thought you absolutely right. Members have the details that you need to make decisions.
That's a must.
Yeah, well, I think we all need a breakdown. We all need some figures to consider. But I think we have a responsibility to use the assets of the town, and they were not used 6 months ago. They didn't seem to be in use because there didn't seem to be access or an agency taking that role. Perhaps it's early to consider alternatives because it's only been 4 or 5 months since this new arrangement. But if some of the barriers are that groups are not happy with an external and us taking more of a role would support them in coming forward, I think it's fantastic.
I think what you can say in terms of the summer, the fact that we've seen the events that have been organised by the Town Council, having a presence there, people have noticed that, they've actually recognised that the Town Council delivered these very positively. As you were saying, in terms of by reputation, by trust, and confidence, it does make sense to continue that trend of having our flag planted on these events. So for me, the option is definitely way to go.
I would also like to, consider or discuss drawing people and organisations from outside as well, and letting them know that we have a space. We shouldn't just depend on local groups. There are groups in Nantwich or in Sandbach or elsewhere nearby that they know there's a venue and a place that they can host events as well. I think. I'd love to see a little more sharing of ideas and bringing a bit more cooperation between local villages and towns. I think too. Knowing that we can be depended on and we have a place for them, I think that would be good too.
And of course, the considerations that hopefully rounds off where we've got to. Want to read more of you on that page?
So yes, we have 3 considerations. Number 1, to make members aware of the progress so far towards activating Lyceum Square throughout summer and autumn 24. Number 2, that the direction of council for a town centre-wide focus should be considered, rather than a Lyceum Square specific approach, utilising the most appropriate space in the town centre for each planned activity. And 3, that the provision of an in-house resource to build the town centre events and activation output as well as supporting current event output sustainability is progressed. So 3 considerations. If no one objects, perhaps we can consider all 3 together. Do we have a proposal? Seconder, everyone. So yeah, all in favour of the considerations? Yep, unanimous. Great, thank you. Item number 10 is the budget setting.
So, as you can see, there's no real changes proposed for next year and this year. However, I have started to look at the detail of the different budget lines, so that we can sort of allow work for next year's programming to progress in this financial year, because there's certain things that if we leave it too late, they'll get booked up and we won't be able to get the resources and provisions in place that we need to make things happen. So we have got to start planning a little bit in that way. So it's very, very similar budget to last year. There's a couple of changes, but nothing major, no increases. As I said, I've started to put in a bit more detail. So community events and summer programme. This would involve the school holiday programming. So this would be spring, summer and autumn programming. So we'll be looking at a similar number of events to what we've had this year, so around 30 events for both spring and autumn, and then around 130 over the summer activities. It also includes make market animation. Have moved things around a little bit, so that budget line has increased, but the overall budget hasn't increased, if that makes sense, this year. So that's just because costs have risen with animation and walkabout activities. So this will just continue to make sure that there's something else going on Makers Market Sundays that kind of hopefully pulls people into town. As we know, the Makers Market has struggled. I don't think it's a Crewe specific thing. I think it is across the board that these markets aren't doing as well as they have previously. Probably due to things such as cost of living crisis, but also I think traders are finding other ways to sell their products as well, so they are struggling to get enough traders a lot of the time. We also have to remember that we're competing in some areas that have got really established markets as well, often on these Makers Market days. So that animation will just really help to add to that and pull people in. There's also some budget in there for community events. So this is to support events that are put on by the community, such as Armed Forces Day, Pride, International Women's Day. So we've got some space for budget there. Those events were all very successful last year and have been this year, so I think it's really important that we continue to support them and continue to support communities, community groups in general. And also, so under strategic events, we have got the picnic in the park, which I think it would be a good idea for that to happen in June again, as it did last year, because we've got a little bit of a gap there. It's a good month to have something excellent weather-wise. That was a really successful event last year, and as I said in the previous meeting, 100% of attendees that responded to the survey did want to see it back again in future years. The same with Crazy Races, we've had an overwhelmingly positive response. The cost of that has gone up slightly this year. However, that cost would include things like the shuttle bus and things like that. It includes all additional costs as well, which are things that we contributed in addition to the actual event itself. And also that reflects the rising cost of events and provisions and infrastructure. So there's lots of events guidance out there, but one of the main pieces of guidance that event organisers go to.
Oh, it's just was it on 10,000 this year? Announced 40.
No, it was 30,000. It's just that some was committed.
Oh, okay.
Earlier on.
I understand.
So that's what that is. So yeah, there's some guidance called Purple Diaries, and obviously there's HSE guidance that is forever changing, and the level of cover that we need in terms of medics, etc., is always going up. So I can understand why that cost has risen, because there has been a lot of changes to that, and we're seeing increases across the board. Then on Christmas we've got the Christmas lighting scheme, and the Christmas lights event itself, which is pretty much what it says on the tin. We've then got the bicentennial fund, so that's legacy planning for a Crewe bicentennial event, which will continue to feed in each year to make sure that that happens, and it's a really big, large event for the town when it comes to that. There's also some budget in there for more public art, so Mike's expressed previously that we'd like to see more of that happen, and we've discussed things like green boxes before, so that can be explored further, so that's what that's in there for. Heritage projects is in there as well, so that includes things like heritage days. Town centre events are delivering development, so this is the Lyceum Square budget line, what was previously, so that's what that is. And then evaluation, monitoring and development, so this is just allow for continuous evaluation. A lot of evaluation is done in-house, but ever so often we want to do something that allows us to kind of take our events to the next stage, and that sometimes requires some external evaluation and monitoring. And it also allows for development, so we've got some room there for things that if we like to match funding or something like that, and we want to support something else. So hopefully that covers everything, but if anyone's got any questions, please let me know.
The crazy races, I guess we will again be discussing the details, such as potential new sites or those types of decisions, I guess, still to be made.
Those kind of decisions are still to be made, and what I would say in terms of sites, we are quite, as we found out last year, we looked at numerous different sites throughout the town, and we are quite restricted. However, perhaps a different layout would add to that event and increase visibility to track these things that we can look into there. And I have got a sort of wash-up meeting times with them to go through evaluation and feedback, both from us and what we've left, the comments that members have made. But yeah, it would require conversations, but the reason why I started the conversation about that now is if we don't put it in soon, then it will get put by another time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. If May is already agreed, or if it's just
it's not agreed. It's that's kind of what I'm asking permission for.
My apologies, but I would support all considerations in my absence.
Thank you. Thank you for attending.
There's so much really what's going on, I can't wrap my head around it. Each time I listen to books, all sorts of places, will this affect the races? Maybe.
As long as we pick a location that's not
Yeah,
got
getting the
very
location is what I'm thinking about now. Is it going to be easy getting the location? Because everywhere you go, there's a road, there's something going up, going up.
Well, the good news is that we have a very positive relationship and persuasive relationship with our highways authority in this situation. So there is limited availability for crazy races function. Rosie's got them hold in May, but if we don't hold in May, then we'll give it to someone else and we won't have crazy races next year. And I'm not trying to force you, but if we are in a position that they need to be told it's going to go ahead or not. If you're happy for it to go ahead, then we can book the May slot And then when you get on the highways and say, do not mess about with this road. And they're very kind, and it's a positive issue, they're very kind, will put that into their planning schedule.
Keeping our fingers crossed. But that's been praying on my mind with the, especially even this last one, when I kept thinking, yeah, there's road work going on, how are they going to navigate that area? So that's one problem of us.
And a consideration we've discussed in the past is, after the success of the Knife Angel and the anti-violence week, was to have something, we discussed about having something, and growing or building on those two events.
The theme of peace and reconciliation and that sort of thing.
It's definitely something that can be explored, and that could be what that arts and culture development project goes for, something like that. And members felt that was something we wanted to explore, and more so than murals or green boxes or anything like that. What I would say is that I have looked into different options for something like that, and there is very little out there that we could have for the same or even similar cost of Knife Angel or the Day, which at that point you kind of look at it and wonder if it's viable to do it, because not only are you having to pay for your security provisions and your infrastructure around it and the getting it here and all of that, you're having to pay to actually hire something in, and there's very little cost associated with hiring those pieces.
Rather than try to emulate the idea of something like the Bee or the Knife Angel, I think the important thing is that we continue the theme. So if that's built into some of the commissioned artwork, I think that's what we need.
Or a part of course, the holiday programme.
Yeah, it's a continuation of the theme of peace and reconciliation.
I was just reminded of that we talked about before. There's the other event that you're referring to that's every year around July to celebrate True. I think that might be something that actually we could incorporate somehow. Because if you're going to have it every year, you've got to have it in. Actually, that's probably an ideal time. There's no reason why we can't, because we've already set it on. That might be cheaper than what, like you say, it is expensive to commission something solely for us, like and also it's also like we discussed before, it's a time frame, it takes so long for that to be created, but actually if it is already in the making, that you somehow incorporate it, and that's it. There's no reason why we can't make it decent as well.
It's very well be one of the murals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the event, I think it would work quite nicely actually.
And that arts and culture development budget that is there for next year's budget, and that's open to discussion. We don't know. I know that Ben's indicated in the past green boxes would be something of interest, but that this is a higher priority than that, and we can explore this option. And I think there's definitely more discussion needed around what that is. The only thing to bear in mind is that in terms of sculpture and having our own sculpture, that is an option that I've looked into, something specific for us, but the cost is just, it's out of budget, it's not something that we could achieve at the moment.
Like you said, you could do it in an art form, like somebody local that's created it, and even if it's every year it's slightly different, that doesn't matter. I think the ethos is that it's crew, it's about peace, and all the rest of it. That's the ethos we want to bring forward. So if it's an annual event celebrating crew and what we stand for, but in the mix of that is something that the children have created, or the following year is something that the academy, the higher age group create, then someone else is someone that has with something else agenda and they create it, but it's still around the same sort of ethos.
Just because it's slightly different every year doesn't really matter. The fact is, they created it that year, and it just goes in the archive, for example, perhaps. I don't know. We are going to have. So it could be displayed and every year, that's what we did that year, that's what we did that year. There's a little message behind it. You know, it could be for deaf people, they've created something, a crew, or it could be anything, but something that's local, that's created in an art form, I think that's equally as powerful as getting something like creating a statue or something that's going to be really expensive, and perhaps that's less sentiment than something that's been created within our community.
I think do something fresh every year.
Yeah,
It's a much better
I
idea
think
than
so.
a one-off.
I do now. This is come at the right time that this is now going to become something. I think it's the perfect time that we incorporate it.
I wouldn't like to see the thing lost though, after you have to be successful.
No, I wouldn't. So it's good to have, like, if this picks up really quickly, then that's great. What sort of time frame would you be thinking about this? Is something like would start next year, or?
Yes,
Is
this is for next year's budget. This would be
Right.
something that has to be explored next 25, 26.
So we wouldn't lose a theme somehow,
No.
which is that's the next question. That's great. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? No, so we have 5 considerations. 4, yes, sorry. Forgetting my Roman numerals. I'll read them out. Consideration 1, members may choose to consider all the areas of work associated with the committee and the strategic direction. 2, members are asked to consider approving work towards bringing a Picnic in the Park 2024 to Crewe in June 2025 to begin in this financial year. 3, members are asked to consider approving work towards bringing a Crewe Crazy Races Soapbox Derby event to Crewe on the 25th of May next year, 2025, to begin in this financial year. And 4, that committed spend for 25-26 strategic events is drawn from the associated earmark reserve if payment is required prior to the end of the 24-25 financial year. So, proposal, please.
I propose that we take the 4 together.
Yes. And a proposal for all 4? Yep, the
Yes,
same.
I second the
And the
4
seconder?
together.
Thank you, Sarah. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And thank you again for all the work in setting the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie.
Rosie.
Okay, the last item is item 11, to note the proposed date of our next meeting, which will be next year, 20th of January at 6 o'clock.